Okay, welcome back to another episode of Let's Play Screeps. So last time I got the latest dedicated standalone server working, got set up with the OS stack so I could upload code to it. In this episode, we'll talk about what I did to make the code of my previous episode about a year ago or whatever, work again, all the changes I did, as well as a couple other mods I installed and other tweaks I did to the server to make it run better. So first let's take a look at the code. Now this is what I did. What I did here in this diff is I copied all the source from what was on GitHub when I last stopped. Episode 14 or so, or 15 or whatever the last episode was. Now if we take a look at that in the diff tool, we'll see all the changes I did to it. Underscore revision just wasn't found, so I just set it to 1. I don't know. If somebody has any idea where the hell that went, let me know. But I didn't spend much time investigating why the hell it disappeared. So whatever. This is a logging component that used to exist in one of the older versions of this project, this TypeScript starter kit. I don't know why they deleted it, but as far as I remember, it came with it, if I'm not mistaken. And I think the later versions don't, which is fine, but I still have it, so I tried to make it work again. This was pretty easy. Mainly this old code right here didn't work. It couldn't find the source map, and apparently the syntax changed. So I just copied what he did in the error map file here, because he's still using source mapper here. So I copied how he uses it there, and that seems to work, so it's all good. Other changes. The profiling tool I used to use, I did not update, so I just commented it out. Fairly simple. I did import his error mapper, since it seemed like his error mapper was kind of a cool thing. It basically tries to track down the stack when an error happens, so you can tell where a crash happens. And all he's really doing is like wrapping the entire loop with this error mapper wrap loop function, which is embedded inside this this file. So I just put that in there. This is the old code we stopped at last time. Nothing too special there. So if we keep going, the compiler was complaining that these were not initialized in the constructor. And as far as I read online, you put an exclamation point and it's all happy. I haven't studied JavaScript or TypeScript enough to know what that exclamation point means, but it probably means you don't need to initialize it. Again, commenting out our profiler. And this was another compiler error where it said, hey, like this could be undefined. This dude right here could be undefined, so I just said, okay, make sure it's not undefined. I'm not sure why also equals not equals null doesn't catch it, but I imagine it's a little bit more strict now. This was one of the heavier chain breaking changes. As far as I can tell, this starter kit switched, or at least upgraded, the typed definitions from Screeps, and that exist here. And these type definitions have a bunch of breaking changes from, I believe he was using this one previously. And he's got a bunch of breaking changes. And this version seems to be better, I suppose, because it's a bit more strongly typed, but there are breaking changes. So if you kind of read this block of text, it will describe what you need to do in some detail. So mainly this string structure is now a strongly typed enum, and then instead of returning a type of T called structure, you just pass in the enum again, and it magically figures out what it's going to return, which is a structure. There's some kind of crazy trickery behind the scenes that he's able to do that with, which is kind of neat. Let's keep going. Again, commenting out the profile calls, nothing too radical there. It's a very similar thing I just described, which is instead of returning a creep, you just pass in find my creeps enum, and it just will figure out that it's a creep, but nothing else changed. Same thing here, just pass in the enum, instead of the construction site. Previously, body parts were just a bunch of strings. Now they're actually in this new typed def or TypeScript definition file. They're actually in a strongly typed thing called body part constant, which is cool. And this is more of the same that I discussed before. And before it used to be called spawn, now it's called structure spawn. String to body type constant again. More stuff I've described before. This is just an indent change, I think, from lint getting upgraded or whatever to changing how it wants to format code. This is more the same. Nothing else special in the rest of this file. This is defining what global means. I noticed global was missing, and I think the profiler was setting global for a bit, but I don't really need that one. It's just the way you can access global, whatever. It originally, this project over here, if I'm not mistaken, its tsconfig is targeting ES5, and I want to target ES 2015, aka ES6. This is the module system. Like, I spent a little bit of time trying to figure out what the hell these two mean. This is the module system you're using. So I'm using the ES6 module system, aka ES 2015. And this is what kind of code it's outputting. But if you tell it you can output 2015 code, you get some additional features, such as being able to do a find on an array and so on, that I was using previously. So I just upgraded that to 2015. No problem. I think this is probably not needed, but I was trying to remove the property initialization kind of strict stuff, but I don't know, whatever. And I think that might be it. So that's it. So not too many breaking changes, which is all good. And now the code's working, which is great. Now, one thing I did do that I did in between episodes, I did this a while back, was install this mod called Screeps mod tick rate, which again is really easy to install. You just go into your server. You just stop your server and you install that mod. Now, if you look at, do be aware that just like we saw last episode, once you install this mod and do that, this is not true. It's not it. You need to go into the mods.json and then add this line here, node modules, Screep mod, tick rate index.js. And then it will pick it up. And then you're able to, in the CLI, the command line interface, make this tick rate call, which is all good. Now, the next problem I hit was, if you noticed just a second ago, I probably shouldn't have stopped the server to demonstrate. And I have this thing called last server. But if you start this server up, you'll see that these guys are flying pretty fast because the tick rate's pretty high, which is good. But if you sit there and let this run for more than a few minutes, and you can see, if you rewind the YouTube video, these Screeps actually start moving really slow, even though the tick rate's high. And so there's like a degradation of performance over time, like really quickly now, which is very mysterious. That didn't happen before, as I recall. So anyways, I searched on it, and luckily I found a thread talking about it, which actually happens to be one of the recent issues on the Screeps forum. It's right here, fast ticks slow down over time, number 66. And he describes exactly what I was running into. So he's using the duration tick mod, and he's setting it to low, and then a few minutes later it decreases to 4 ticks per second, then 2 ticks per second. But then if he restarts, it goes back up to 8 ticks a second, and then it slows down again. So what the hell? So basically, people go on to explain in great complex detail that you basically need to install MongoDB and Redis on your machine to actually jump it to a better database, which sounds scarier than it really is, I suppose, but it is just more steps of the madness. So you need to install yet another mod by this guy, Screeps mods. He's given us so far tick rate, the auth mod, and now the Mongo mod. So you had to install this Mongo mod. And again, it's not that bad, which is good. You have to have these things installed, which we already do. And then you have to install MongoDB in Redist. So to install MongoDB, just search for it, click on the install button, scroll down, click install Windows if you're on Windows, scroll down, go to the download center, click community server, download the MSI, run the MSI, leave it all on defaults. You don't need to change anything as far as I could tell, and you're good to go for Mongo. Redist, same thing. I don't even know what the hell this is. This is in-memory data structure, cache, message broker. All right, whatever. Click. Oh, this one's more annoying. You have to search for Redist on Windows because it's a Linux-based thing. So you got to find the guy that's doing Redist on Windows. So you can go over here. Yeah, is this it? Yeah. So here's the different. So this guy, the stack service guy, talks about the different options of getting it working with Redist. Option 1 is this shit, which I didn't do. Option 2 is running this shit, which I didn't do. And then option 3 is running Microsoft support, which sounds pretty sweet to me. So just click this button here to download the latest Redist on, if you're running 64-bit Windows, and then extract it and then run it. So very simple. So I have it running right over here. And then just run it with this command. And done. You don't need to run all this crap. You don't need to do the command line interface or anything. So once you have MongoDB installed and you're running this thing, and you've installed this mod Mongo, and you've modified the mods.json file to point to the index.js, just like all his other mods. I'm not sure why every single mod he doesn't say to do that, but whatever. So start the server, and then you have to do these things. So now you had to go back in the command line interface of Screeps. Screeps server npx Screeps CLI, I think. And then when you have that running, do these two commands: Mongo import DB, system reset all data, and that will wipe. I might as well do it right here. I'll just do the system reset all data because I've already done the other one. All right, so you press enter a couple times and that will wipe it, which is good. Stop, don't do that one. Stop. Start that one. Let's see. Go back to the Screeps. I have so many stupid command line windows now. This one, yeah. Here's the Screeps one. Stop that, go to the folder called server. I don't really need last server anymore. I was just showing that off to show how slow it was. I'm gonna delete that one now. And then npx start server, or Screeps start Screeps server. Start, I think. Screeps start, yep, so it starts it. And then if you try to upload like we did last time, which was basically just this command, you'll actually see it fail because, I think if you import the DB, what happens is it wipes your password, or at least it did for me anyway. If you do the Mongo import DB command, so you have to do the set password command again, passing in your username and password, and then this command will start working again, which is all good. And then restart the server and you're done. So now, if we go run this, which is good, and then if we go reconnect to our server, this one. Yeah. You can see it's running very fast now, and it won't slow down, which is great. So that was the fix to this crazy issue of the database slowing down over time and very quickly, unfortunately. So we're done with that, and we're done with this mod. The next thing I realized was, and I noticed this around episode, I think it was 11 in my last playthrough of the game, was the polling rate, the refresh rate of these Screeps on screen is very slow by default. So I did find a while ago this post which talks about, hey, how do you get this Steam app actually rendering quicker? And so some guy's like, hey, you can go modify this update throttle logic. Now the way I solved it before was adding it to a mod, and I tried that again, but it didn't seem to work. So I just went into the Screeps folder and then just search for this dude. You just search for here, and you'll see it right here, this file. So if you just go edit this file in Notepad or whatever, this will be at 1000 by default. So I just recommend changing it to 250 because that seems to work pretty well, at least if you're on a fast machine. Saving that, restart your server, and then the Screeps will update like this very quickly. If you don't have to do this, it's kind of more of an optimization. It's basically if you don't do that the last thing I just showed, what happens is the Screeps will not render very fast. They'll only render every second. Even though in reality they're actually moving around really quick, you just kind of see them jump all over the place. You don't see what they're physically doing. Now, if you set this faster than 250 milliseconds, your performance degrades as far as I can tell, at least on my machine. Maybe if you have even a beefier machine, you can probably get it faster, but this is how fast it's in like the packets between, as I understand how fast it's in the data. So if you don't limit it, it's going to flood it, and you're kind of going to get diminishing returns because it's not designed as a traditional game. It's designed as like a crazy website. So there's a certain limit where you can only push it so fast. But anyways, once you got all those things working, then you should be back up. And one last thing, I switched back to Visual Studio Code, which I was using throughout the last set of episodes. So that's a pretty good editor. You can also use Atom, but Visual Studio Code I found pretty good as well. So the way I got that working again was you just open the project. I recommend just opening up the Screeps folder, and then you can open up the lib or the source folder, and you'll see all the files you can edit. In order to make this debugging or the compile process work good, is I configured a task, a build task mapped to the key F5, and that build task simply runs my compile script. And the compile script, if you remember, it just looks like type compile. It's just that command, the -C. Now I could run the CW to be a watchdog. Maybe I'll try that and see how it goes for me, but I do like the idea of just pushing F5 when I'm ready, and then it'll tell me the errors. So basically I can go mess with these files and then push F5, and then right here it'll open up the compile window and tell me what happened, which is pretty sweet in my opinion, because then you can kind of see the error list and so on. And of course you can close it. That's pretty much all I did, and I just remapped it in the editor. You can go to preferences, key shortcuts, and just remap that build task to F5. And I think this config is all checked in actually underneath inside this directory. It's inside the .vs code settings, which is pretty sweet of Visual Studio Code. It actually couples the tasks of the project to a .vs code file. So this will get uploaded to GitHub, and you can kind of mess with this if you want. It was just mainly figuring out the dumb task system and showing how it works. I'm not sure it's like super optimal, but that's what I did. And then you have settings files, which is kind of your settings, and you can mess with this if you want. This just kind of sets if you're doing tabs versus spaces and so on. All those standard silly preferences that people wish to do. But that's about it. As soon as this episode ends, what I'll do is I'll update the GitHub repo with another commit a new starting point, basically the equivalent of where I ended up 2 episodes ago before I took a long break. And then hopefully we'll continue on next episode, actually making new features and improving the AI once again. All right, thanks for watching. See you next time.